We already know the main event, and now we know the co-main event. Tom Aspinall is going to be defending his interim belt against Curtis Blaydes, which is the fight that should happen. Well, actually, the fight that should happen is Tom Aspinall versus Jon Jones, but Jones is doing everything in his power to avoid that fight. Aspinall is literally the interim champion, and Jon still only wants to fight Stipe, who is 41, almost 42 years old, hasn't had a fight in 3.5 years, hasn't won a fight in 4 years, and in his last fight, he got brutally knocked out by Francis Ngannou, and Jon is doing this claiming that it's a legacy fight because Stipe is the greatest heavyweight of all time. But in my opinion, and I think a lot of you guys would agree with me, a win over Tom Aspinall at this point means a lot more for Jon's legacy than a win over Stipe. Why would the UFC even put an interim title on the Tom Aspinall versus Sergey Pavlovich fight if it's not going to have any meaning? They knew Jon was still going to fight Stipe, and yet they put the interim title up just to sell a few more pay-per-views and not actually honor what an interim belt means. And there's a good chance we might not ever get the Aspinall-Jones fight. There's a strong chance Jon retires after the Stipe fight, or maybe he says, hey, I don't want to fight Aspinall, I want to fight Alex Pereira next. I mean, if the UFC is going to give him Stipe, there's no doubt in my mind they'd give him Alex as well, which is disappointing because Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall is one of the best fights you can put on in all of MMA. But since it's not going to be Jon Jones, Curtis Blaydes was absolutely the fight that needed to happen. But apparently Ciryl Gane was actually offered the fight first. Aspinall accepted, but Gane declined because he's working on some movie. Instead, he wants to fight Aspinall sometime in September in Paris. But let's be honest, Ciryl Gane does not deserve another title shot. He has been a part of 3 of the last 4 heavyweight title fights, and he has never once became undisputed champ. He had his chance against Francis Ngannou, came up short, had his chance against Jon Jones and got dominated, submitted in the first round. And he's only coming off 1 win against Sergey Spivak, so he needs to do a little bit more before he gets another title shot. Maybe he fights the winner of Volkov-Pavlovich. But Aspinall vs. Blaydes was absolutely the fight that needed to be made. He's coming off a good win against Jailton Almeida, and him and Tom Aspinall have history with each other, with Blaydes having that win over Aspinall. Although it doesn't really count because Aspinall got hurt 8 seconds into the fight. And I've been saying it for a while, on paper, Curtis Blaydes is one of Aspinall's toughest matchups. He is one of the best wrestlers in the division, can defend the takedowns. He's a solid striker, more specifically with his boxing, has a good amount of power. He has good timing on his shots as well. I would say Aspinall overall is the better boxer of the two, and he'll also mix up his attacks on the feet more. He'll throw leg kicks, which he was using very effectively against Sergey Pavlovich. He is also ridiculously fast. He is 250, 260 pounds, but he moves like he's 200 pounds. His footwork is so good. He's never a stationary target, whereas Curtis Blaydes can sometimes get caught flat-footed. He's also very powerful. Knocked out Sergey Pavlovich, who is known for having an amazing chin, took clean shots from guys like Derek Lewis and Tai Tuivasa. And against Blaydes, who isn't the best defensively, gets tagged a lot and doesn't seem to have a great chin. It is really hard to say how good of a chin Curtis Blaydes has because, yes, he does get knocked out a lot, but he gets knocked out against guys like Francis Ngannou, Derek Lewis, Sergey Pavlovich, literally 3 of the hardest hitting guys to ever step foot into the UFC. And although I wouldn't say Aspinall has the same amount of power as those guys, he's not far behind, and if he lands clean on Curtis Blaydes, I don't see Blaydes taking a clean right hook from Aspinall. But Aspinall doesn't have the best defense either. He keeps his chin up, his hands low, and in general just doesn't have the best defense. And Curtis Blaydes is a solid striker, good boxer, a good jab, a good cross. He was tagging Sergey Pavlovich at times in their fight, and he has a good amount of power himself, and although Aspinall's chin has looked good so far, it's never really been tested. Blaydes is also one of the best wrestlers in the division, one of the only guys who can compete with Tom Aspinall on the ground, and on paper should have decent takedown defense, but he was getting ragdolled by Jailton Almeida, who is not only 20-30 pounds smaller than Aspinall, but probably a worse wrestler. So I do think Tom Aspinall would be able to take Curtis Blaydes down if he went that route, but Blaydes is such a hard guy to hold down. Jailton Almeida couldn't get any good positions on him, couldn't really establish any control, but Aspinall is a very good grappler and is also a lot bigger and stronger than Almeida. But for an early prediction, I think you gotta go with Tom Aspinall. I think the majority of this fight will be on the feet, but I do think Aspinall, if he wanted to, would be able to take Curtis Blaydes down. I mean, Almeida got him down 9 times. I think Aspinall could get him down as well. And although Blaydes is a good striker, and I don't like the way way Tom Aspinall gets caught with his chin up and his hands low. I do think overall Aspinall is the better striker. I think he's the better boxer, also has those leg kicks he can go to. He is also the much faster fighter, the way he's going to be going in and out of range, and Blaydes defensively isn't great, and when he gets caught, he gets knocked out. So for an early prediction, I would definitely go with Tom Aspinall, and I think he knocks him out in the first or second round. But that is my complete breakdown for this Curtis Blaydes versus Tom Aspinall fight. I did talk about all the other fights on this card in my last video, or 2 videos ago actually. Go watch that. UFC 304 is looking very good. I'm very excited for this card, and I'm going to cover all the fights when they happen, so subscribe so you don't miss that. Turn on post notifications, like the video. Leave your opinions on this fight in the comments down below. What is your early prediction? Who do you think is going to win and why? What do you think of Jon Jones basically ducking Tom Aspinall? I'm very curious to see what you guys have to say, and I will see you all in the next one.